from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. James Azar here with the Practitioner Brief. It's June 29th, 2021. A short week for a lot of people this week in the United States. Friday kicks off 4th of July weekend. Next week, Monday, is a holiday across our entire great nation. Since 4th of July is on a Sunday, a lot of people are going to be off on Monday. So a very, very long weekend, which means our adversaries know this. Thank you for tuning into the Practitioner Brief. We're going to get to that in just a moment. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Thank you for everyone tuning in today. We have an awesome show going on today. We're going to talk a lot about Google. We're going to talk about LinkedIn. REvil is back, and NATO changing a cyber strategy. We'll discuss that as well on today's show. Good morning to everyone tuning in. If you have not subscribed to the CyberHub podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform, please make sure to do so now. If you're not following either, make sure to do that as well. Good morning to Roger, and happy Tuesday to the wonderful James McQuiggan. Good sir. Also, good morning to Christopher Joseph. Oh, good morning, James. Triple espresso time, almost. And howdy to Scott as well. Good morning to everyone tuning in live today for our show. We've got some good news. We've got some stuff where, people are starting to take security seriously, or at least they're taking actions that seem like it. And we're going to get to that. Good morning to Bob. Good morning to Ola as well. Well, Bob says goof morning, but I can be a goof some mornings as well. And good morning to Gary from Texas, the great state of Texas. Everyone tuning in today. So let's get started. But before we do that, a shout out to the companies who make this show possible. KnowBe4, Wistic, and Ativa Networks. Go check them out. You can see more about them in the show notes. And now without further ado, Ola said it so, Chris said it oh so well. Triple espresso time. I'm on a double, but it's my second double in like an hour and a half. So it's how I power through my day. I increase my espresso intake early, and then I slowly wean off. And it's kind of like, an old center block of a car. You'd heat it up and you'd so the car runs smooth. That's what I need. Cheers. Let's get started with this story today. All right. A few things here, though, before we do that. We've got someone from Nepal. Good evening, Yasana from the beautiful country of Nepal, and coffee cup. Cheers to the awesome James McQuiggan. Good sir. It's my master's cup, by the way. So it is one of my prized possessions. So here we go. And Chris gets the fact that I drink a lot of coffee. I love it. Thank you. Now let's get into cyber news, all right? Because I'll do a coffee show all day long, but that's not going to help us get our jobs done. Google has decided that Google Play security now deserves a little bit more attention, and so they're now requiring app developers to verify their address and use two-factor authentication in a first step, where Google is now saying that they want to increase trust and security in the Google Play Store. About time, Google. Thank you for joining the party. We welcome you with open arms and zero judgments that you're finally taking some steps to ensure that malicious apps by malicious app developers are no longer easy to do. And something as simple as requiring them to verify their address and their contact details and turn on two-factor authentication. Who would have thunk it? As part of the changes, individual users and businesses in possession of a Google Play developer account will be asked to specify an account type, a contact name, their physical address, as well as verify an email address and phone number provided during account creation. Here's the stunning piece of this. What have they been doing up until now? 10 years of doing this. 10 years of doing this, and Google Play just woke up to this. Here's the deal, folks. If you have not been following the show a lot recently, if you haven't been, I've been doing the show now for 3 years. So here's a little thing. Almost every week, every single week, at least once a week, I'll talk about a group of malicious apps that exist within the Google Play Store. We talk about Google Play having to clean it up. And then Google has done nothing. And now they're starting to do something. It's a step in the right direction, so we're not going to judge them. But still, they should do more as well. We'll get to some comments here. Chris says it's about time they do that. James says, yeah, need to use more MFA in all apps. It would be nice if more orgs had to opt out, not opt in for MFA. Couldn't agree more. And good morning to the awesome Matt Lee, who's joining us this morning. Good morning, good sir. Now, a lot of us are on this platform as we speak. Heck, I'm even live. So apparently data for 700 million LinkedIn users has been posted for sale in a cyber underground marketplace. That's after 500 million LinkedIn users were affected in the data scraping incident in April. Now it's happening all over again. The question is this 500 plus 200, or is this 700 newer contacts? The very interesting move here anyways. So analysts from Privacy Sharks stumbled across the data that was for sale on raid forums by a hacker calling himself God User Tom Liner. He's not a hacker threat post. Come on, folks. It's a criminal. It's a cyber criminal who's trying to make money off of data that does not belong to him. The 700 million records included in the cache claims to have that there's 700 millions included in the cache and a sample of 1 million records as proof. Privacy Sharks examined the free sample and saw that records include full names, gender, email addresses, phone numbers, and industry information. It's unclear what the origin of the data is, if it's a if it's a threat actor or what it is. This is another big one for LinkedIn. But you can imagine how this could be used in OSNet. And speaking of OSNet, Heather's with us this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Hello to Kalyan on Facebook. And Matt says, threat actor, cyber criminals, not hackers. I agree. Write threat post. Go to the link. The link's in the show notes, and write them and say, stop using hackers. Stop it. Stop it. If we all just did that for like a week straight, they'd stop doing it. They really would. They'd get really, really annoyed. Here's the deal. This is a security ramification of data scraping. I still don't understand why these websites allow for data scraping. Don't get it. Not in my forte. I want to get to the next one here, and this is a big one if you're a gamer. If you're a gamer, this is huge. NVIDIA patches a high-severity GeForce Spoof-Attack bug. The powerful GeForce now has a vulnerability that opens the door for remote data access, manipulation, and deletion. The NVIDIA gaming graphics software called GeForce Experience, bundled with the chip maker's popular GTX GPU, is flawed and opens the door to a remote attacker that can exploit the bug to steal or manipulate data on a vulnerable Windows computer. NVIDIA notified customers late last week of the bug and released a software patch for the flaw, which is present in its GeForce Experience version 3.21 and prior. Windows software, a 3.23 GeForce update, is now available to mitigate the bug. The bug's tracked a CVE 2021-1073, a CVSS severity rating of 8.3, which is high. The NVIDIA GeForce Experience software contains a vulnerability where if a user clicks on a maliciously formatted link that opens the GeForce Experience login page in a new browser tab instead of the GeForce Experience application and enter their login information, the malicious site can get access to the token of the user's login session. Such an attack may lead to these targeted users' data being accessed, altered, or lost altogether. So here we go, folks. It's just GeForce. Thank you, Scott. I don't know if it's GE or GeForce, but I'm glad you are a gamer. NVIDIA is a serious player there. We've been seeing a lot of attacks increasing on gamers On the other side of cyber on Thursday morning on Clubhouse, that's going to be our discussion, so you can tune in to have that conversation on Thursday morning. I want to move to our next story as well, where a REvil ransomware now has a new Linux encryptor that's targeting virtual machines, specifically VMware ESXi virtual machines. The most popular brand of virtual machines are now part of the REvil ransomware operation. They're using a Linux encryptor that targets and encrypts VMware ESXi virtual machines, with the enterprise moving to virtual machines with remote work, easier backup, device management, data, and so much more. They've created their own tools to mass encrypt storage used by VMs. The REvil operation has been confirmed, and they've released a Linux version of their encryptor that could also work on NAS devices. The malware hunter team found the Linux version of it and also appears to target Advanced Intel's Vitaly Kremis, who's an industry leader who analyzed the new REvil Linux variant, told Bleeping Computer that it's an ELF64 executable and includes the same configuration options utilized by more common Windows executables. When executed on a server, the threat actor can specify the path to encrypt and enable a silent mode as shown here on the screen. The command is used to close the virtual machine disk, files stored in the VMFs folder, so that the REvil ransomware malware can encrypt the files without them being locked by the ESXi. There is a file on Alien Vault's open thread exchange where you can see more information shared by researcher Jamie Belasco. This, again, targeting an organization, significant risk if you're on a VM or your org is operating on a VM. It used to be that VMs were, I don't want to say a safe spot, but they were a little bit more, it was where we kind of operated, not anymore. They're a complete and absolute risk. REvil is targeting them. Go check out the Alien Vault open threat exchange and make sure you're sharing that information so that you can start putting some mitigation tactics in place, including maybe getting your VMs on segmenting your virtual machines as well. Finally, our last story of the day. NATO now warns that a cyber attack on a member state could trigger a coordinated military response. So here we go. NATO has finally awoken from its nap for the last 6-7 years as cyber attacks have gone on and people's information's been out there, and now says they've ratified a comprehensive cyber defense policy which could invoke Article 5 after a cyber attack penetrated by rival entities against a NATO ally. The article, which was ratified in 1949, part of the post-World War II response, calls for a collective military response at the Atlantic Council's headquarters in Washington ahead of the NATO summit in Brussels. Stoltenberg said that NATO did not distinguish between cyber intrusions and other forms of attack. He noted that cyber aggression could trigger a military response through other means. In a way it doesn't, whether it's a kinetic attack or a cyber attack, we will assess as allies whether it meets the threshold for triggering Article 5. It sends a message that we regard cyber attacks as seriously as any other. Stoltenberg told the BBC that cyber attacks can be as damaging and as dangerous, citing Colonial, SolarWinds, and many more. Here's the thing, though, folks. He talks specifically about Russia and China. Here's my question on this one. I don't know. Maybe I look at NATO and I'm a bit of a pessimist, because to me, NATO has been about as useless as an old pair of socks. They're not going to go on a full-fledged war over a cyber attack. The Russians and Chinese know this is nothing but virtue signaling. It's nothing but a statement. It's all puff. That's right, Scott. Here we go. He said it. It's all puff. Matt says Israel's already sent the precedents. Yes, but Israel targeted Hamas, a terror group. The question, Matt, is if China's military wing cyber unit launches a cyber attack against the U.S. and we invoke Article 5, are we going to bomb the cyber center in Beijing or Shanghai or Guangzhou or Zhengzhou? No, we're not. We're not going to do that because China's a nuclear power and so is Russia. So all this is, I'm going to have to go with Scott here. It's puffery. It may lead for other cyber criminals and threat actors to really kind of think twice or three times about this because, they could invoke Article 5 very similarly to how the U.S. invoked Article 5 post 9/11 on Afghanistan, building a NATO coalition and then going after Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. So let's say if I'm harboring in Belarus or in any one of the former CIS countries and we're operating out of there, you could see, they're going to pick on the smaller players. But I don't know that we're going to see huge changes when it comes to this. This might be a deterrent, but that's about it. And yeah, Matt, I completely agree with you. If you have some random ransomware gang in a small country, we would certainly deploy a drone. Yes, we would, but that's an article. Again, it's executing an Article 5, which has specific stuff to it. I think we're going to talk about this a little tomorrow in the Tech Down Square because this is a developing story. It's very, very interesting. We'll see if this has any, if there's any meat to the bones on this one. NATO going down this movement though is kind of a notice to Russia and China as well. And let's not dismiss it. It's all puff, yes, but it's also a notice that you keep doing this kind of stuff, and we're gonna invoke NATO, but we'll see about that. Again, looking at this, we'll see what happens. So we'll check this out. I want to get to your comments before we end today's show. Roger says, in 1805, the U.S. took military action against an African country that was engaging in kidnapping and holding for ransom. As for money, this gives us the line from the shores of Tripoli in a well-known American song. And Matt Lee says, exactly, a deterrent-like offense around a building that no more delay than a set of cutters or a truck. Yep. You nailed it right there, Matt. That's it. We'll see if NATO has any teeth behind this or if it's just going to be another piece of thing. And Matt finally says, and we all know how much you think of NATO. Yes. Let me tell you something. NATO, solving all the world's problem. NATO and the UN, folks, just let's trust them to take action. Where Saudi Arabia, China, Venezuela are all on the Human Rights Council. Yeah, and the World Health Organization is run by China, the healthiest country on the planet. Okay, great, wonderful. 2 thumbs up on that one, folks. Yep, I'm going to trust these guys to reduce cyber attacks and invoke Article 5. Yeah. Excuse me if I'm not so optimistic about this, but that's it. All right. That's it for our show today. We've got almost 20 minutes. You guys are absolutely unbelievable. Thank you for everyone watching us live. Please make sure to go check out the CyberHub podcast. Check out our CISO Talk podcast. Last week, I had on the leaders of Cardinal Health, Lori and her team with Jana, Samara, and Brittany were on the show. What an unbelievable podcast it was. Our top downloaded podcast so far for the year. So go and check it out. You don't want to miss it. If you have not subscribed to the CISO Talk podcast, please find it on your favorite podcast listening platform or go to our CyberHub podcast YouTube channel where you can catch the episode right there. And we are all set, folks. I'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. right here with another Practitioner Brief. Tomorrow night, the Tech Town Square at 8 p.m. with Eddie. And folks, we've got so much more. We're going to talk about this stuff. We'll be on Clubhouse as well. So tune in, check it out. Until then, have a great rest of the day and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.